Hey, right now I'm going to go over the different sculpting tools that I have here. I've got them all laid out in front of me, so let's get on that. Alright. I have a very large and very random assortment of sculpting tools that I use. But we'll start on the left end and go to the right since I'm a lefty and all you righties can kiss my ass. Right here, very simple. It's a sewing needle and a holder. The holder this normal setup is actually supposed to be for when I do hair work. You put the pointy end in here and then you snip off the end with the loop so you have about a half loop, and then that way you can punch hair work in. But for doing very fine and very small detail, I like to use the pointed end of the needle. And it works really well on that tool. Then just a common, I have 3 different rakes and styles of rakes. This is a hoop rake. And they all have different, this side it has teeth on this side. This is more of a fine-toothed edge over here. This is for smoothing out rough spots. 2 more rakes. I have a stiff bristle rake and then a wavy bristled rake. The wavy bristles I actually prefer over the stiff just simply because it gives you a more natural skin look. Then I have random, these are old dental tools. I actually got these out of my a box of tools I found at the art sale that a guy used to pick out walnuts with. So I use these a little bit. This I actually use for getting wavy textures in for skin and things like that. This one I use very rarely, but it does come in handy for trying to get different crevices made, and then you can go in and fine-tune it a little bit. Then I have different hoop tools here. These are a couple that I commonly use. I have one large and one small. A more narrow hoop, I guess you could say, if you can see it there very well. Again, I apologize for the blur. And the other end are triangles. Again, one is just larger and the other one's smaller. I have a flat edge tool. These are actually commonly used in stonework for stone sculpting. I was not aware of that since it's so flexible. I wouldn't think it would have been any good, but that's just my opinion. Now, I ordered online from a company called tools.AVI very small smoothing tools. Now, you can't see it, but what these are actually piano wire that are wrapped and bent at angles. And these are used for smoothing out small areas, and they come in different sizes and shapes. This one's just a loop on the end. This one's broken, but you get the point, is that it would have been like that, and it was an odd angled one, which these are some of my favorite tools because I can actually use these for a little bit of sculpture work on using the softer clays. And it also works really well on the harder stuff too. Now, some of my tools I got out of a cake decorating tool set, which are these plastic ones. This is a fondant knife, and these are used for sculpting out fondant. But again, with the softer clays, and just clay in general, these work out really well. I have a whole variety of these. Those are my 2 favorite ones out of the set. Then I have dental tools. I ordered these from monstermakers.com. These are all stainless steel, chromed out, the whole 9 yards. That's how I roll when I sculpt. And they have all different varieties. They have 3 different sets, I believe. This one's got a pointed end on here with a little bit of an edge, and then this side is a looped curve. These are primarily the ones I have used so far on sculpting the Hydra and a couple of my others. Again, here we just have a flat-edged one on both ends. One's just on a flat end. This one comes to a point. Larger tools, and then this one is just a very large spatula, is basically all it is. I've actually used this one for just mixing paints. Now, lava rocks are not something that I believe most people would use for sculpture work, but in my case they come very handy for if you're wanting to do a rough ground texture or terrain, or if you want to add, some nasty mottled skin to something, these are the way to go. And this one's covered in paint and clay, but they're heavily used. But you can, if you're ever walking along somewhere and you happen to find like a pile of lava rocks in someone's yard, I just happen to help myself once in a while and snag a couple that look promising. Texture stamps, or if you're really not wanting to spend all day sculpting out scales or whatnot, I ordered these from Monster Makers also. This one is made wrong. The texture is actually pointing outwards instead of being inwards. So that way you don't get a 3D texture, you get an imprint. So I don't use that one very often, bad example. This one's like a sandstone texture to it. Very grainy, very gritty. Comes in nice if you're wanting to do quick fine scale work on something. And this one's like, primarily like alligator skin style texturing on this one. It's also been heavily used. You can see where it's wearing down in spots. There's those, and then just random assortment of brushes. You don't have to buy like the same brushes I do. God knows I didn't buy the same brushes everyone else did either. I just go down to Walmart and pick up one of those like $5 packs with 50 brushes in it, and I use these for painting, small detail work, and also for smoothing out my clays. This one's pretty gummed up right now with some clean clay in it. You can actually sculpt the brush. So then I have a few other tools I use. I have rubber and silicone tipped tools, very flexible, very soft, easy to manipulate your clay and push it around to where you need to get it to go without actually having to touch your clay. This saves you from having to mess up your texture or anything, or your fine detail work you may have done. Like I said, I have a whole assortment of these, ranging from very large bits on the end that are about yay wide to very fine points. And they do come in quite handy. So there's all those. Next video will be a small sampling of works I've done. Unfortunately, I don't actually have any of the sculptures remaining. The only thing that is existent of those sculptures are a few pictures and some dust.